Good afternoon. I hope everyone can hear me. My name is Bukiola B. I will be moderating this session on mental health. First of all, I have to apologize for starting late. We had some technical issues, which has been trashed out over the course of 1.5 days, but hopefully we'll get there soon in Nigeria with our network. So that's one of the things causing anxiety for us. And SBL has put together a panel of experts. As you know from my bio, I'm just a lawyer. I do not have the expertise to discuss things like this. But we have a brief but very important session today to talk about health. And we have two speakers with us today. We have Dr. Bonjola Abiri, who's the medical director of Tranquil and Quest Behavioral Health. It's a rehabilitation center based here in Lagos. And we also have Miss Oluwatoyin Opeloyeru. She's the founder of Shaping Lives Trust. It's an NGO that is aimed at promoting mental health well-being. So I won't be talking as much. Like I said, I don't know much about this. But just to add a bit of context about this topic. In 2017, the SBL had a session on healthcare. And we had a number of speakers that spoke about physical health. And it was quite important. I remember the tagline was "Dead lawyers don't work." That tagline was enough for me to join the gym. I renewed my gym membership. But we talked about mental health, but not as much as we should have. And fast forward 3 years, now we have an actual session on it. I have to commend the SBL for putting together this session. So one of the things that was mentioned at that 2017 panel was that one in every 5 Nigerians suffers from depression. And I looked up the numbers a few days ago, and that has gone up to 2 in 5. And that research was from last year. So I can imagine with what is happening this year, the number will probably be even higher. So mental health is something of concern. It's unfortunate that here in Nigeria, we are slow in taking it as serious as we should. So it's important that we address mental health issues in line with the pandemic we're going through these days. So we have a poll that has been set up. It's basically to figure out what keeps you up. I know what keeps me up. We have various options there: finances, family. So if you please take the poll, and at the end of this session, check the results and send in your questions via the comment section, and the speakers will then deal with your questions. So enough talking, let's get straight into it. Toyin, there's a stigma associated with mental health in Nigeria. You have an NGO that is aimed at promoting awareness. Would you say we have gotten there, or how far would you say we have gotten in Nigeria in terms of mental health awareness?
Good afternoon, Buki and Bonjour, and good afternoon, the audience. I'd like to thank SBL for having me. In terms of how far we have gone, I would say regarding mental health in Nigeria, globally, there is a stigma attached to mental health globally. And the stigma level in Nigeria is higher, but I would say it's not as bad as it used to be. We still have a long way to go. Because I know the first sessions we had raising awareness informally before the NGO was launched was in 2011. And it was so bad that you would not actually some people would not sign the attendance sheet just because they didn't want to be associated with the word mental. And what you find out with mental health, there's so much stigma surrounding that word. To ignorance and misunderstanding. People hear the word mental health and use it interchangeably with mental ill health. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, for us to be healthy, it's a combination of our physical, mental, and social well-being. There can actually be no health without mental health. And in terms of, we have a long way to go, but I would like to say things are changing, because last year, one of the things that happened last year was that I was at a private school to have a seminar. And during the seminar with about 500 staff, a senior management team, they actually come up to say that they had a mental health issue. They were struggling, and they actually went to see a doctor, psychiatrist, really. So I said things are changing. We still have a long way to go, but things are gradually, in terms of awareness and education, we're beginning to do a lot more. A lot more still needs to be done, but we're gradually
getting there.
Getting there. We got a lot to be done, but we're on the right track.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay. Dr. Bonjour, I saw a recent Forbes report, I think 2 days ago, on the American workforce, and it says only 50% of the employees are comfortable discussing mental health issues. That's half of a workforce. That's in America. So I can't imagine what the numbers will be in Nigeria. So I know for a fact, for example, a number of organizations have policy on absence from work due to physical health issues. So you check your employee manual to say, if you're ill, you have to bring in a medical report, and then you can take so number of days off. I asked a few people yesterday, and most law firms don't have provisions for mental health in their policy. It's not something we've thought of before now. People just think, okay, somebody died in your family, take 5 days casual leave, bury the person, mourn, and then come back. But I saw on the World Health Organization website, they actually have a policy document, a template document for companies or for workplaces to, sorry, do we still have Dr. Bonjubola on?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We just can't see you, but we can hear you, so I'll just carry on. So like I was saying, we don't have provisions for mental health in our workplace. And I know you co-authored a book called Mental Health in the Workplace. Can you just discuss a bit of that and tell us, we have a lot of partners and business leaders on here, if you could just advise and talk to us about how to create an enabling environment so people feel comfortable discussing this issue.
All right, well, thank you very much for your question, Buki. And I like that mental health has often taken the back burner for a long time. But like Tony said, it's beginning to get the much deserved attention that it needs. In fact, with the current COVID-19 pandemic, it's getting much more attention. And, you know, I would start off by saying that work is good for health, be it physical or mental health. And, you know, health, of course, is not just the absence of disease or state of physical, mental, and social well-being. However, a negative work environment and a toxic work environment can lead not just to physical problems, but mental health problems as well. With the report that you said, 50% in America, of course, it will be an abysmally low figure here in Nigeria. But it would also interest us to know that 1/3 of our lives are spent at the workplace. So if we're not getting the kind of attention that we deserve at the workplace from our employers, then that's quite sad. It's also interesting to note that, you know, no previous generation of people in history and of course, the 21st century workplace had previously been described as a VUCA workplace, a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and risk-filled workplace. So of course, workplaces have always been a hotbed for health issues and silent illnesses, like we would like to call them. If it's not the people, it's the processes or the places. And of course, VUCA is especially apt in this time, especially because of the current COVID-19, working from home, the uncertainty, the job losses, the economic downturns. We have what is called a now normal. And of course, a lot of these pressures of work, because different industries have different pressures. For people who work in the financial industries, their own pressures will be meeting targets. For lawyers, it will be finishing briefs. For doctors, they will be attending to all the clients. And of course, as these things go on, they can, you know, make people anxious, sap motivation, affect decision-making processes, and overwhelm organizations. Mental health conditions can occur, from substance use disorders to mood disorders to anxiety disorders to disorders of biological functioning, which would include sleep, sex, and even appetite. And it's for that reason that, you know, the employee assistance program is still, you know, trying to find its feet in Nigeria. Quite a number of organizations have taken it. It's called the EAP. But usually, you know, when you go for a presentation and you're trying to encourage the management of the organization to take on what is known as the EAP. EAP is a, you know, a confidential program that is given by the employer to the employees to help them deal with personal problems, workplace issues, or mental health and substance use problems. It ensures that, you know, employees can work and manage their life as well as whatever issues it is that they have. So I think that going forward, a lot of organizations need to start looking in the direction of what is known as the EAP, and not just know about it, but of course sign up their employees so that they're not just, you know, happy about the work that they do, they're also happy about their general health and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I noticed that the topic for this session just mentions crisis, but you've mentioned the elephant in the room, the virus. It's not even an elephant. Everyone, it's everywhere and it's happening simultaneously. So, point, there's uncertainty because of this virus. People don't know when it's going to end, if there's going to be a vaccine. They don't know if the information they are getting is correct. They don't know if they're going to lose their job or their business. The conference subject matter, for instance, it says digital acceleration. What are we doing to grow in this new world. There are some people that are scared that they don't have the technical skills. One of the sessions today, they discussed people not having the technical skills take their business or their job to the next level, and they're worried about that. So you have experience working in both private and public sector in the UK and West Africa in particular. What measures have you observed that you think we can utilize to fast track mental health management in Nigeria? Because we're already behind. So just share with us some things that you've experienced in different jurisdictions.
Okay, thank you. I just want to start by saying that one of the things on mental health, like Bonju had said, it's been ignored a long while, and there's that lack of information. But one key thing about mental health, it does impact on productivity. I listened to a few sessions yesterday. We talked about working more efficiently, working more productively. That can only be done if you have a staff that are actually mentally healthy. Mm-hmm. And we all have mental health. Mental health impacts on our productivity. It impacts on us functioning well. So it is important to invest in this. I would say in Nigeria, working in the UK, I would highlight some of things in the UK. In the UK, we have what we call the Equality Act, which means, for instance, if I am working in a law firm and I have a mental health, say I have anxiety or depression, by law, it's required that in line with the organization, the firm's policy, as well as the resources, it's required that they are not allowed to discriminate against me because of my mental health condition. And they are supposed to put reasonable adjustments as far as possible. Right. So if I were in the support role in the law firm, is it possible to work from? They'll look at what adjustments they can make. In Nigeria, I think one of the challenges in terms of legislation, that can be a key challenge. Stigma as well, when you start educating people, reducing the stigma, that can be done through training. One of the things we do in the UK that's really taken a strong hold as a mental health first aid training, which is an international evidence-based training that actually allows people to be able to spot the signs, feel comfortable having that conversation, and just generally destigmatizing mental health issues. So I'd say legislation policy. What else can we do as well? Organizations individually, they can invest in training staff, particularly maybe management staff, to be able to spot the signs. Contact can also help, where someone who has what we call lived experience, someone sharing their experience. Okay. I'll give an example. Lloyds Bank, the CEO, was off work for work related to just mental health issues a couple of years ago. And he did come out and now change the whole well-being policy within the bank. And now, people are a lot more open, very supportive. He's created a very supportive environment. And now he's even gone far and beyond now, working in collaboration with NGOs to actually sponsor some mental health initiatives for young people. So these are some of the things that we can do. I will say that in the past, the Millennium Development Goals have not helped because there's been nothing about mental health, but that has changed with the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay. And I'd say for everyone listening, for us to have an efficient and effective workplace, we have to start looking at mental health. It is important. It impacts on productivity. What happens when you have a productive team? They are effective. Performance. There's lack of it reduces your retention. Absenteeism as well is reduced. So these are all the things that link to it. And like I also said, there is no health without mental health. One of the themes that's been coming up for. So just to add to what you are saying, I can understand the anxiety levels. People will get really anxious. It's normal for us to be anxious about COVID, about having that. What happens if I get COVID? Am I going to die? There's that anxiety. Some have said the fear alone is enough to cripple some. Right. But what I would say with the fear is there's certain things. Yes, COVID is real. What can we do? The practical steps have been highlighted. For Nigeria, we're generally spiritual. There's a place for prayers as well, and the practical steps. But more importantly, when we are anxious, what can we look at doing? First and foremost, I'd encourage people. We all get overwhelmed. Look for that safe someone you trust to talk to. What are the things that can help improve our well-being? Connecting with people, exercise. So these are some of the things I have touched on a few. I don't know how much time I have.
Oh, sorry, we're running out of time.
Training. Sorry.
Yes. I'll stop there. Just one more question for Dr. Bonju, so we can move to the Q&A. You currently volunteer with the Lagos State COVID Psychosocial Response Team. What has been your experience? Can you just highlight some of the specific things you've observed from what is going on right now in Lagos?
All right. Well, thank you very much. So, come from a place where we thought that COVID could never come to Africa because of the sun, to where we're having morbidities and mortalities associated with the condition. I volunteer with the psychosocial team, which means that I provide psychosocial support to people who have been confirmed with the virus. The interesting thing is, there's so many pillars. There's so much work going behind, the scene that people don't know. So there's a disclosure team, there's an evacuation team, there's a psychosocial support team. But in my own team, what we do is provide, virtual care to people who have the infection, who have either decided to isolate at their homes because they're asymptomatic, or who are currently at the isolation centers. We call them routinely on alternate days to find out, how they're doing, if the symptoms are abating, if they're using their medications well, if they have any side effects, if they have any issues with either sleep, appetite, or their mood. And of course, again, stigmatization and discrimination comes up because, quite a number of people are stigmatized because they have been infected with the virus. So it's a lot of work, but like I said, it's just, it's one of a lot that is going on right now with COVID-19. But the truth is, the virus is real. Yes, please.
Can I just commend you for that? I mean, it's good that you're giving some of your time into doing that. We, at the beginning of this session, we mentioned that we have a poll asking people what their biggest concern is since the COVID outbreak in Nigeria. And we have the results. And I'm going to have an egg on my face because the overwhelming response is, my family, would they be okay? And the reason why I'm saying I'm having an egg on my face is when we were putting together this poll, I didn't want to put this as an option because I just said, well, it's a given. But Dr. Bonjubola insisted, and this is why she's the expert. So that's the overwhelming. People are concerned about if their family will be okay over their health, over their jobs, over their finances. So it's good to know that we have a bunch of good people in our session. But just to quickly wrap up, let's do some questions because I won't be forgiven if I don't take questions. So the first question is, what signs should we look out for to determine if a colleague with mental illness? This question is from Stella Duru. So, Dr. Bonjo, I'll just put that question to you. What signs? I mean, it's a very good question because you won't expect people to immediately just go to the hospital. So, as a first point of contact, what should we look out for in a workplace?
Oh, well, sometimes you never know. You know how they came with HIV and said, they show for face. This, you may never know. But if you are a very sensitive person, you're sensitive to yourself and you are honest and open with yourself, you're able to ask yourself certain questions. You notice that your mood is low, your parent behavior has changed, your thought pattern is changed, you feel, unduly overwhelmed or excessively stressed. These are some of the little things that you can look out for. And then, of course, you may also find that you have started to cope with maladaptive coping mechanisms, such as showing a display of aggression, cutting yourself when you feel stressed, or you turn to the use of psychoactive substances such as alcohol or illicit substances of abuse. That's how you as an individual can know. For other people, for them to know, they need to have a high index of suspicion. If you have no idea what mental illness looks like, you're likely to be able to miss it. But you can know from the behavior, the appearance, the speech, the thought process, or the abnormal perceptions in sensory modalities that the individual may complain about, in addition to the things I previously had said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The second question is similar. I'll pose this to Toyin. It's from your namesake, Oluwatoyin Ololade, and he's asking, how can one approach a colleague or a friend who has mental ill health? I think, Toyin, you mentioned something about nomenclature, and I'm beginning to understand what you said, because the question says, how do you approach a colleague or a friend who has mental ill health in light of the stigma attached and misconception around such? I think even here we're mixing the terminology, so we need that education. But please carry on and respond to the question.
Okay. I'd just like to explain that, just give an overview of what mental health is. I think it's important here. Mental health is actually our ability to enjoy life and cope with its challenges. And it's defined as a state of well-being in which all of us as individuals can cope with the normal stresses of life, work productively and fruitfully. I'm just paraphrasing, and contributing to society. So we all have mental health. Whereas mental ill health, imagine having a broken arm, it affects your physical health. Mental ill health is when there is a sort of like you have a challenge with your mind, and a disease or infirmity of the mind. That's mental ill health. And sometimes mental illness itself is when you have a confirmed diagnosis, say depression, anxiety. Sometimes people might have symptoms, but it might not necessarily mean they come under the criteria for a diagnosis, and we don't have time for that conversation today. But what I would say is, let's assume you have a colleague that you know really well. That's really very chatty and an extrovert, and you notice for a couple of weeks they seem to be more withdrawn. It's impacting on their work. I'm just giving an example. What you could do is walk up to that person and say, Imagine the person's name is Bonja. Say, oh, Bonja, I noticed would you like us to go for lunch together and have a conversation? But you need to understand before you can have that conversation. But it would be stating what you have noticed. I noticed XYZ. You've not been engaging in conversations. You've not been yourself lately.
Okay, thank you for that. Sorry, we have to wrap up now because we only have 2 minutes, but I'll just let Dr. Bonjubola and Toyin just give us one tip, something other than what you've mentioned already, just one tip. People are concerned about their family, and this relates to the poll results. So one tip, coping mechanism, so to speak. How can we cope with this anxiety we feel worrying about our family? So I'll start with Dr. Bonjubola, just in a sentence.
Okay, so simply put, I'll use the 4 M's of Sue Verma: mindfulness, mastery, motivation, and meaningful engagement.
And Toyin?
And just to add to that, what I would say is an action plan to act on actually what has been said. 2 things you can do to stay mentally healthy: connecting, exercising, and having a routine as well. So both on an individual basis, a mental health action plan, as well as an organizational base as well.
Okay, so, I hope somebody is recording this session because I didn't write any of that. I would like to play it back. But thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a good session. We didn't have enough time, but the speaker's bio is in the electronic brochure, so you can look out for them. And if you have any questions, I'm sure they'll be happy to address it and help you with it. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the SBL in particular for having a session on this. It's very important, and I appreciate the SBL CPC for organizing this session. Everybody, I would just like to take care, hang in there, take your breaks if you need to, speak to professionals, and just speak to someone. You can't keep it all bottled in. But to everyone listening, sorry, we are going to take a 5-minute break after this before we start the debate. But I'd like to encourage you to come back for the debate. It's always the best part of the conference for me. And the topics are quite interesting today. I think it covers everything that has been discussed the last 2 days. So thank you to everybody. I know the days are muddled up now, but I would end by saying have a nice weekend. So yes, today is actually Friday. So thank you, everybody.